My name is Ryan McGinnis. I am kind of a regional account manager, digital learning specialist, jack of all trades here when it comes to Wakelet at the moment, where right now I'm servicing the Northeast. So I spend a lot of my time up there account supporting, helping teachers and districts get started with implementations up in the Northeast. So anything from Virginia on up. And my counterpart is Chad, and Chad is here.
Hi, I'm Chad. I want to point out two things. One, I have the proper accent for talking to people in Texas because I was born here. And two, that I'm not wearing a sweatshirt because wherever Ryan is, it's long sleeve shirt weather and it's not for us. So I am the Texas Wakelet guy. Anything y'all need, let me know.
Astute observation. Pennsylvania, it is definitely fall starting to creep in, and long sleeve weather is starting to be here. So we're at mid 60s, which is
Yeah, we're on our 17th day in a row of over 100, looking at 106 today.
so yeah. You see, Pennsylvania's not that bad after all. Although it's going to be like
Yeah, I'm
30.
gonna come see you for the next 2 weeks and just be in your basement with you.
There you go. After that, it turns like 30, so you don't want to do that for the next 9 months. But welcome everybody. Yeah, Chad is going to be your go-to. He's going to be the person, your point of contact in your region. So feel free to reach out to Chad. He's got a really great email address, chad@wakelet.com. He'll pop that in the chat for you, and feel free to reach out to anybody on the Wakelet team. We're happy to help you. But Chad will be your first point of contact, and he can put you in touch with the best of the best of what your need is. So today's session, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'll pop my resource collection in here as well. So let me do that before I get started so you can follow along if you want to look at these materials. But what I created for us today, we're talking about enhancing student engagement with Wakelet. And you've been in a situation before where like you've planned a lesson for like 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ahead of time, and then you get to like the day before you release something and you're like, wow, I just found something that changes a lot of what you were going to do. And that happened with me. I had a couple of different resources and materials planned for this session. And then we did a really amazing webinar last night on alternative assessment pieces. And I'm like, nothing's more enhancing for student engagement than some of these things. We're about inquiry-based and choice boards and digital portfolios and all of these elements that allow you to enhance that ability for students to interact and engage and become empowered in their learning. And so I spent some time last night ready to tweak and make some changes to what we are seeing. So you'll notice that my collection right away, I chose column view, which I never do. But I chose column view for a couple of different things. One, it made it easy to sort out the content that we're going to cover today just based on different types of activities and engagement procedures with students. But I also wanted to demonstrate something that was a bane for a lot of people who had been using Wakelet before, and that was the column view, because it was hard to navigate. It was hard to scroll. The titles would go away, and it would be hard to tell what column you were in. So we'd like to demonstrate now. You can see as I scroll in the columns, the titles stay static. Something we've been asking for a long time, and just one of the many improvements that such a small team can make is they hear the feedback, they can take that, and they can make the tweak and change pretty quickly. So this is something I'm really excited about. Just happened a day or two ago, and just wanted to showcase that. But we're going to start off with a little bit of the understanding, and this graphic I think makes perfect sense, and I'll blow it up just a little bit more just to help. Oops. There we go. But there's growing recognition by the power of doing, right? Like learning through doing is a really great tool. And sometimes we take that away from our students because we think about like the end goal is to just complete this, do this. Like, but the idea of working through something really encourages a lot of creativity, a lot of comprehensive critical thinking skills, letting our students do something, create something, being engaged in content really helps increase that learning when it comes to students. And this is the graphic I created that I'm really excited about for. We do a lot of teacher-centered learning, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we do a lot of teacher-centered where it's the compliance section. I talk, you do, I grade, right? Like that's the cycle that we live in. We start to to get towards that engagement piece where we start to give them a little bit more and we're getting them to engage in the content. But what we're really looking to do is really lift them towards that empowerment piece. And when we say empowerment, we want them to own their learning. I want to be able to talk about dinosaurs, and I don't care how they demonstrate their learning for dinosaurs. If someone wants to go make a stop animation video, if someone wants to put a clay diorama together, if somebody wants to make something that can still showcase a video, a trifold board, whatever it is that they want to do. It doesn't even have to be tech-centric. But if they're able to take control of their learning and demonstrate it in a way that matters to them, that is going to help that learning stick. And that's what we're here to talk about today, is getting those engagement pieces. And the last point of the why engagement matters is it comes back to this comment that I truly live and breathe every single time. We know that when students have a behavioral, emotional, or cognitive attachment to something, they're going to have that stronger sense of connection, and that works in the classroom. If you tell them to go read a book and they're not connected to that book, they're not really going to put their best effort into it. But if you let them choose the book that they like, about a topic that they like, they're more intrinsically involved by reading that book. And the same thing can be true with their work. If I offer them a chance to do a worksheet, they're going to do it just to do the worksheet. But if I ask them to put together a portfolio that showcases the best me, or the best Chad, or the best, anybody that is in the class, they're going to think about it. They're going to revise, tweak. They're going to go back again. They're going to analyze. Like, they're constantly iterating on that work. So that critical thinking piece is definitely that self-reflection. And that's what we want to get to through the use of some of these collections today. So you have the resource collection. You should be able to make a copy. You should be able to have an example of all of these things. I want to say a big shout out to Alex Isaacs and Aaron Holland, who helped share some of these resources with us yesterday. So these first two columns definitely came about from them. But imagine being able to be in a classroom, and for this is Mrs. Mason's class in North Carolina, and they're talking about climate classifications. And you can see the standards for earth and environmental science. And of course, standards vary from state to state. But how cool is it to take a standard like this and utilize it to give your assignments a climate classification vlog assignment? So here is what they were given. Of course, they were given a little bit of descriptions and instructions. So they had to choose what biome they wanted to do. And from one of those classifications, they had to create a video blog of the day. And they were using Flip. So Microsoft Flip to create the video. And the video had to include all those things you can see on the screen. That's it. That's all the instructions that were given. And I love the fact that it talks about, like, where are you? What, describe your biome, a brief weather report. This creativity allows for your students to become more engaged in the content, right? They can talk about attire. They can talk about what they're going to do, find a background that they're going to shoot in, or maybe they're going to do this for homework. They can go outside and find a location that maybe could serve as what they're working on. But it takes what would be a normal research project and a slideshow and just increases it a little bit more. So here's that same thing as a flip topic. So you can see she put the instructions back in there again for the climate. You'll be given 5 minutes. It doesn't need to be that long. So of course, no one wants to spend 20 minutes watching 20-minute videos. And then you can see some of these examples. And that's why I wanted to make sure something like Wakelet is really dynamic, because you can pop those examples in there. And when your students complete those, they can see these work samples. And I think this is super cool. Let me know. I'm going to hopefully, I didn't get the options. Let me see if I do this correctly here. Share, include computer sound, because that never happens. There we go. So I want to share one of these videos, and let's see.
Hi guys, and welcome to my vlog about the Amazon rainforest, aka a tropical rainforest. That's what we call it in science terms. Have you ever just been sitting back and wondering, like, what does the rainforest look like? Well, I will show you. Japan. There it is, the Amazon rainforest. If I were to go there and stand and look around and explain the scenery to you, I would see big giant leaves, luscious tall trees, and beautiful vines, like the ones that I have behind me. We obviously got these from the rainforest. Thank you very much. I know when I very first heard about the rainforest, I was like, what kind of animals are there? And I was like, boom, jaguars. Yep, you heard it here first, folks. If you've ever wanted to pet a jaguar, come with me to the Amazon rainforest, and we can pet as many jaguars as we want. Now, let's not.
The video is glitching a little bit, but like, first off, Chapam and Bow, when she's talking about the jaguars, like, it reminds me of Chad. So if you ever have a conversation with Chad, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Those random terms just fly out all the time. But like, this is the excitement and the energy that is missed when you're making a PowerPoint or a trifold board or something else in the classroom, right? The excitement, the energy, the amount of thought that went into making that video, as far as where the elements were placed, stitching it together so that it's done creatively, right? That is a much more engaging project than just reporting out on something. And the same thing with literary devices. So another example that's inside of that collection is literary devices in film. And I said yesterday, this is probably the first time where Grey's Anatomy and Friends made it into a description in a Wakelet webinar. So I was kind of impressed by this. But they're taking the essential reading standards to talking about evidence that helps support the analysis and the inferences drawn from text. And of course, they were given, again, another PDF that helps talk about, you know, the materials that go along with it. In this case, they had to somebody's work. So they get the expectations. And then in this case, it was like Grey's Anatomy. So we're meeting the students with where they are. Obviously, this case, someone was really excited about Grey's Anatomy, but they're talking about the characters. And when they say things, what is that literary element that matches it up? So again, probably the first or second time, maybe the first time that Meredith and Derek have been mentioned inside of a Wakelet webinar. But they're talking about plot elements. They're talking about setting. They're talking about exposition and inciting incidents and rising actions and climax and falling action and resolution. And I think it's such a dynamic element to allow the students to pick and choose. Many of us do that already. We let them pick and choose topics, but do we let them pick and choose how they display their learning? And Wakelet allows them to do that. This could be a great place to put this in as text, and then record a flip video, right? And talk about what it is that they showed. But this is a great example. And then they also did one on Friends. So of course that generational gap, because, you know, Friends was around when I was younger, and now, you know, kids are probably watching it on who knows what streaming service now, but they're able to go back through and see and reconnect with these characters. But they watched an episode and the exposition, the same content again, they're able to study and analyze and interpret all of that from something that interests them. Any questions or comments about those two, like, inquiry-based mastery concept activities? Or Chad, anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add. You did an excellent job.
Other than Chapam.
Chapow!
Chapal's gonna make it into my list of words now.
Yeah, she was super excited about the rainforest.
Yeah, I mean, that's the excitement and energy that students have when we can meet them on topics or give them the ability to pick and choose how they display, right? Everybody's got a personality. It's how do we bring that personality out into their work and match it to the outcomes. All right, so next up is choice boards. Choice boards have been around for a long time. I remember doing choice boards when I was in elementary school. I'm sure many of you do as well, but the fact that choice boards are always providing opportunities. Alex Isaacs is, man, one of those creative people who makes everybody else look really bad when it comes to creativity. So including myself, man, they're incredible. But Alex was a math teacher, and math is one of those topics. And the reason why I chose some of these is because when you talk to people in education, a lot of times, you know, everybody's willing to try things. That's what educators do. We try things. But a lot of times you'll hear that phrase, like, that's great, but it doesn't work for math. Well, this is proof that it does. So this is an example built all around some of the easiest things, the Pythagorean theorem. Right? Everybody knows it, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Being able to talk about that, there's not much that goes in for everything. And Laura, what is Wakelet for? It's a way to curate and bring all of these resources together. In this case, presentations, it could be different modes. It's delivering all of your content to the students inside of a single collection. right? So putting, if you're brand new to Wakelet, we can back up for a minute if we have to, and go back and talk about, Wakelet is that place where you're taking anything from across the web and you're sharing it out to your students with a single link. So instead of sending link after link after link, you're able to go through and create a collection based on a common thought, lesson, topic, module, and then you're sharing one link out to your students. So when I click share, it's just one link that goes out to your students all at once. And they can go through and access all of the materials at their own. So in this case, Alex is using it as an alternative assessment piece because he wanted to see what his students could do to demonstrate their learning for the Pythagorean theorem. So this is a collaborative collection. And what that means is he went to share, and there is an option to share to view, which is what I've done for you. You can view the collection, but I can also change it to add, so that you can get a collaborative collection, kind of like a Padlet, kind of like other materials where they can bring and add to your collections. You only get 3 of those though on your Wakelet individual account. So, pick and choose when you're going to use those sparingly. But what Alex did is he created this board then for all of his students, and their job, you see the standards in here. He even used Mote and put in verbal instructions for his students, which I think is really cool. App Smash.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Canva creations my students created at Red Bank Middle School.
Right, so able to narrate that with a Mote integration as well. But they were taking the learning standards and trying to explain and make a real-world problem that represented their understanding of the Pythagorean theorem. So super cool. He was talking yesterday, like this one, he remembers these kids in his classroom because they loved aliens and he always talked about aliens. But they wrote a question to demonstrate their understanding of Pythagorean theorem. If a spacecraft is 110 feet above the ground, the alien spotted 3 humans 50 miles from the bottom of the tracking beam. How far is the top of the tracking beam to the humans? And then they lay out the measurements, they lay it out, and they do the work on the right-hand side. So instantly, they created this in Canva. Of course, Canva being built into Wakelet allowed for that to be a really increasingly amazing opportunity. But so many more. There's an owl who looks down and spots a rat 150 feet beneath him. The rat then ran 200 feet to the east. He even got to ones that were, there's Humpty Dumpty sitting on a wall. See if this one loads up here. He spots a sandwich, spots a bacon, egg, and cheese with salt, pepper, and ketchup. So very descriptive about what type of sandwich he wants. And he falls off the wall trying to get it. So what is the base? But the students are able to take something like math, a concept that might not be as engaging as the Pythagorean theorem, and they're turning it into word problems that they could demonstrate their learning with. Right? There's a Spider-Man example. There's a couple of stuffed animals and cheese, like a way for students to bring their topics in. Here's another choice board, and this is more of, open this one up. This choice board is like an interactive timeline. So we've done timelines before where students have to research and provide activities about, do a research project, but what can they do? In this case, he provided them an interactive timeline as a use case. So everybody's is going to look different based on what they want to do with their timeline. But this one about John F. Kennedy, he put in the collections and the titles. So he's got his birth information right here. So students will be looking up the facts and information and putting in, when was he born, where was he born, maybe some photos or other elements they were able to find. Here is his college life. So they were able to do some research there. They found one of John F. Kennedy's thesis papers, naval service, political aspirations, and then the presidential campaign and victory. So you're able to document, not just student projects, but you're able to see and showcase exactly what students can learn inside of that classroom. Again, this could have been a paper-based assignment. It could have been an essay. It could have been whatever they were working on, but now it becomes something much more creative, much more multimodal, and reaching your students across different elements. Then we get into digital portfolios, and this is one that is a huge emphasis for Wakelet right now, is our portfolios set ourselves different and apart from everybody else's because our portfolios, when they're rostered through Clever or ClassLink or CSV or Microsoft or Google, whatever program you're using to roster, they can follow your students from year after year, which means they can take and analyze and interpret their best work that demonstrates who they are. And then at the end of their college or their high school term, when they're a senior, 30 days prior to graduation, we start the process of migrating them from their district account to an individual account, meaning they can take their portfolio with them. And there's not any other product out there that allows for students to take that entire portfolio with them when they migrate. Super incredible, which means they could spend their entire high school career building this amazing portfolio of 12 years, 13 years worth of work, right? With whatever is inside of their portfolio. It's digital equity for all, because I might have a remedial section in my portfolio. Chad might have gifted and talented. Like, we all have different subsections in our portfolio, but all we know is that everybody has a portfolio and we're all demonstrating the best us that we can be. So we get to the graduation point, and as a senior, I can share this out to LinkedIn, to Monster, to Indeed. I'm looking for a job, or from a CTE student, trying to showcase and demonstrate like how good I am at an actual tangible task. If I'm going into welding, I need to be able to showcase just how good of a welder I am. And I can't put that on a piece of paper, but I can do that through a Wakelet portfolio, because I can put images, videos, I can do a bunch more things than I can't do, and it goes with me. So I can take it with me when I graduate. So in this case, this is my daughter. So I said first grade. I know someone out there said they were a first grade teacher. I don't remember who it was. I'm trying to look. So first grade teacher. This is my daughter's Leader in Me school. So of course they're following, the healthy habits here. And she went really hard with the Canva decoration at the very top. That's a lot for me. A lot with the confetti in the background as well. But what she had to do was document her 3 leadership traits that she accomplished during first grade. So 3 leadership traits, how they identified, how it worked with them. And then they also had to go through and express how, after those 3 leadership traits, what is one that they wanted to get better at for the following year. So what was something that they wanted to improve upon, and a reason why. And what you'll see is when she typed this in, recorded a very first flip video for my dad's workshop to the Oter Day. I feel like that's great. She was able to use this on her iPad, so she's able to use Siri and also talk and dictate, so that the typing became a little bit easier. Here she's using Microsoft Flip, because she could have just put in text about her 3 leadership traits. This could have been a trifold board like every other first grader, but she got to try something different, and she used this.
Hi, I'm Kennedy and I'm in 4th grade. These are my 3 traits: leadership, teamwork, and creativity. The trait I chose to work on was perspective. This is the squiggle I chose, and I chose it because I can see a heart in the middle, and I love hearts. The one word to describe me is loving.
Except to her baby brother.
The trait I chose to work on is perspective, because I want to know other people's reason why.
So here we have somebody in first grade who's able to talk and speak, yeah, exactly, about what the leadership traits meant to her. Even going back, you can see the app smash. This is a Lumio lesson that she pulled up from her iPad, took a screenshot, put it up over her shoulder. And part of the activity was what squiggle resonates with you. And there was like 7 or 8 different squiggles in there. And she chose that one because it had a heart in it. She feels that she's a loving person. But being able to build this out, it's a great first step, right, for a first project. And then she's in here and she's adding, pictures and PDFs of her little leader award. Here's the speech that she was chosen to give during Leadership Day with all the other first grade students. She loves our cat Mocha, so she draws pictures of Mocha everywhere. So these are taped all around our house, but she's showcasing her creativity. And then teamwork. She was documenting her indoor soccer, because up here, it snows quite often. So indoor soccer is a big deal in the wintertime. Played on a gymnasium, so you can see they won first place and was really excited about it. And then her perspective, like she wanted to work on why is she told no, because sometimes dad has to say no and put his foot down. But when you're told no, what does it mean, and how do you understand other people's perspective? This is obviously a very first step to a portfolio, and she could have many more collections. But what I love about it is that the realness and the rawness of a first grade portfolio, a great way to present projects. Yeah, absolutely. And then, so very raw, but you work on it and you build it. And after 10 years, you get something like Jenna's. And this is Jenna's, who's a senior at this school. And I love how she references part of the quarantined class of 2020, right? Like of going through that whole process. And Jenna is now having those collections, and her portfolio has little collections about each thing. So a resume, all about me, the clubs that she was part of in high school, the teachers for tomorrow, the future plans. Like this really steps up the documentation of just who Jenna is. But you see that progression from like Kennedy to then you head up here to Jenna. And this could be a CTE profile, you know, like I said, this could be a CTE student who's showcasing their making their own business, or an entrepreneurship class, or anything else that's going on. They get to control the narrative and tell the story about what they're working on. And I like this example too. I just added this one in this morning because, you know, arts, the fine arts often get overlooked. We showcase Honora's profile all the time, and it's so polished. So I tried to find something different this time. And I love this art profile because it's taking you through the thoughts of the artistic journey for each piece of work. And I think it's a great way. It's a great reflection piece. And again, you're going to notice the text boxes. So anytime that you or your students type in text, the immersive reader is there. So it'll read it out loud to me and translate in over 67 different languages. So she's made this as something that can be greatly equalized. And you can see like the little creations. You can see the piece of art that was actually done. So a snake totem sculpture, and why. And it took me 2 to 3 days to finish this piece. Here comes the next one. And each one has a little bit to go along with it. And I think it's really incredible to see somebody documenting all of their work. So whether it's PBL, whether it's just presentations, but they're getting this whole analysis about their work. I mean, that's incredible. I could never do a replica painting that looked like that. Mine would never turn out that well. But so cool for students to be able to document their journey. And again, she used a summative assessment art appreciation video and pop that into this collection. So to be able to reflect at the end of the year and say, here was my journey, this is the best part, here's what I loved, here's what I didn't love, that engagement piece, again, for students, way, way valuable. Right? So we've talked about those choice and mastery boards, we talked about choice boards, digital portfolios, and then we bring in some of these real world projects, and getting people to think beyond their bubbles is not that easy to do. So Wakelet came together last year, and they created, with the help of over 23 different Wakelet ambassadors, and they created the Wakelet SDGs collection. And this is available for anybody. You can just go to wakelet.com/SDGs, and I'll actually pop that into the chat for you. So anytime you're in the classroom and you want to utilize these SDGs, there are 17 different challenges here for you and your students to work through. So if one of them is that you're talking about, quality education, they can go into this collection, number 4, and you'll see there's an introduction. So which one of the ambassadors built and worked on this activity, they've made a flip video that introduces it. They give you the SDGs and a little bit about it. They give you links to all of the materials and how they directly reference the others. They give you some infographics so that students can go in here and learn a little bit more about the topic. And then they have performance tasks. So if the target is to have free primary and secondary education by 2030, ensure that all girls and boys completely free, equitable, and quality primary education, what are these? And then there's going to be a task for them to do. So how do they create something? You see, this one's a long one. There's a lot of material in here. But they can pick one of those targets and then they solve for how they want to utilize it. So some people are making some Canva designs. There you'll see there's a couple of things here that are, Instagram posts, some tweets about materials that they created, how we can be more inclusive. Here's somebody's made a YouTube video about the global goal. So students can go through, they can make their presentation in response to this through any application, but then they can add that right into this collection, which I think is super important because they can take and go through all of those aspects. So whether it is, quality education, affordable and clean energy, clean water and solution, they're all in here. And each one of those like clean water and sanitation. Each one, again, separate setup, with some of our own columns, some are in top-down view, but there's always something for them to go through and do as it relates to the SDGs. So I think it's really important to know that there's something that's already created. Yeah, I love it. It's already created for you. It's, turnkey. It's right there. It's ready for you to use to engage your students with. And then we also created this. So the student ambassador course. Digital citizenship is not something that can be, it depends on your comfort level of whether it's easy to talk to about or it's not. So what we did is we at Wakelet have created the student ambassador zone, and it allows you to go through. There is an introduction video from, of course, MISPA, who will walk you through. That's their old office, but he'll give you the introduction to the student ambassador course. But there's 6 different tasks for students to do, and it helps them build their very first portfolio, right? They're going to do 6 different tasks. So the first one is all about me, and they're going to go into this all about me section. They're going to learn about, who are you? Of course, you can't replace an elf reference. Who the heck are you? How to complete the task. So they're going to create a Wakelet collection. It's all about them. They're going to share their name, hobbies, passions, things they like, places they want to visit. And then they keep that in there. And this is one of those tasks. It's a sample for you. Each task will have a sample, again, that students can reflect and look at, that you can reflect and look at. And this is Honora's. So you'll learn a little bit more about Honora. So Honora is a singer and guitarist. You can see a little bit more that she likes to do volunteer work and trips. Member of Selena's band. Selena, I guess, sorry. I like to visit Italy for my graduation trip. So you're learning quite a bit about each person as they do these tasks. And then after they complete the first task and they submit it to you as the teacher, you can then give them their little digital badge they get. So they get 1 badge per activity. So after they've completed the curation challenge, all about me, then they dive into the next one. And it's critical thinking, talking about perspective. Right? And this is something we do across all of our subjects anyways, but trying to make an informed opinion and making sure that you look at both sides. That just because you read something online doesn't make it true. You need to learn how to discern. This cat feels like me multiple times when I'm trying to decide, do I want goldfish snacks? Or do I want a fruit by the foot? I live with toddlers, so, hey, 8 and 4, so many choices for snacks. How to complete the tasks. It's going to give the students the ability, again, it's all about balance. So critical thinking, here's the example. What's negative and positive effects of social media? So you can open this up and let your students pick their own topics, or you could say you're all going to research, the positive and negatives of social media. You can control that in your classroom. Creativity is the next task, and it lets students talk about designing a flag for the Wakelet Student Ambassador Program. And it must have something that represents diversity and the international student ambassador community, and something that showcases student leadership. And it also talks about free to use images. They don't want any copyright strikes. So, they go through and they can download Wakelet official branding so that they can make it Wakelet-y. But then they're going to go through and design a flag challenge, which I think is super cool. So they can think beyond where they are. Collaboration and make a playlist. This is one that students oftentimes love because they work with people right beside them, people in their classroom. And sometimes people will take this a little step further and expand their horizons and try to work with other people in different areas. But it's to come up with a playlist of 4 of their favorite songs, reach out to 3 other people who add 4 of their favorite songs. So a collaborative type collection, so that by the time you're done, you've got playlists like this, where you've got suggestions from other people. And like, how cool is it? In this case, they used YouTube, so they could go back in and actually watch the music videos, which is a great task. But they've created something and they've worked together. They know what collaboration is. And then communication. They're going to build a presentation, and they're going to do a research project and present. And again, it's all in there. And then step 6, it's digital citizenship. So we're going to pull all 6 of those collections that they've made in steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and arrange them into a very nice portfolio. So again, turnkey, it's built for you. It's already part there. You can feel free to link that and get started with it. And then real world projects don't end there. We've got some examples that I thought were super impressive. And this one is a climate change project done by a whole bunch of students in their class. They were collaborative. So everybody got to take the best work of what they wanted to do and bring in together. So you'll see they put some videos in there to discuss climate change. And then everybody added their own Wakelet collection about what climate change meant to them. So the teacher aggregated all of everybody's collections, popped them into this so that they could put this on their school website, or they could put this and send this home to parents, share out, copy a link, send that home through your parent communication tool, and parents can click and watch and view everybody's projects from that class. And it really shortens up that home to school communication piece. But students know, again, that authentic tie into the work. There's something about all of that that just makes a difference. And then lastly, we'll talk more a little bit about the collaboration, but I want to, preface it with that idea. I referenced this in the first session. Keep in mind that on your individual Wakelet plan, collaboration is going to be limited to 3 collections. So you'll get the chance to do collaboration activities with your students or colleagues or coworkers 3 times before that functionality will go away. Of course, that can be upgraded through our individual pro plan or the district plan. But how cool is this? I saw this example last year, and it was so incredible. Writing collaborative story. Everybody remembers the telephone game, right? You say a word, you pass it to somebody else, and they add to it, and they keep going around the room. By the time it comes back to you, it's completely not at all the same thing that was said. Don did this in the classroom with a collaborative Wakelet. So this link was sent out to students once a day. So this link went out to a student and he started a story. Let's create a story together, simply read what was written and then add your ideas. So he started them off. It was a hot summer day, hotter than it had been in a long time, apparently true in Texas. Today, the plan was to meet down at the river to hang out and chill. And then he would send this collection as an invite code to the next person. So I could not wait. It had been a while since I had been out of the house. All right, simple and easy. Then the next day he'd come back in and he'd share that collaborative link with one more student. And they talk about putting on SPF 50, even though I know it would melt off me 10 minutes into the sun. I grabbed my bag and book right as I left my house. I noticed. So they're getting the idea that they're building this collaborative story, and it just keeps going and keeps growing and keeps growing. And students are able to collaborate and work. And again, this could be done in paper. This could be done in the classroom. But having that effective piece in here also strips back a lot of anxiety for students. Sometimes they feel better to just type and get their answers and thoughts out. Or if they didn't want to create a story, maybe they use Flip and they record them talking about their part instead of typing it in. So that collaborative aspect to build that story. We have one that we use all the time. This is our, sorry, I'll put that up in the same window just to make sure. This is our Wakelet walk-up playlist song. So you'll see all of our songs, on the Wakelet team, we share this in between, and we always have like, what is that one song that if you were walking up to work, Chad's got 2 in here, so, but I think they're the same song, just different versions. But we pick a song, like what song, if you were going to do like the best presentation of your life, what's that one song that you're going to play and get so pumped up and jazzed up that you're going to be like walk into that room. It's like your entrance music as a wrestler. Although my son thinks like high school wrestlers need to have entrance music as well. And I'm like, that's not how that works, buddy. Like, totally different sport. So these are our songs. You'll see Chad, of course, the Imperial. Is it the Imperial Death March? Is that what it's called? Yeah. On Panic at the Disco, High Hopes. Girl on Fire for Melissa. Rodney's Pharrell Williams Happy. It's just a really neat way of getting people to pull these together. And you could do this in the classroom, and you would have a custom playlist that everybody was engaged with. As a teacher, you can do attendance. I can see everybody's names, right? I can tell who contributed, but I could also then have this when it's downtime in the classroom. I could play these songs in the background so that everybody had something going on. I know it's a lot. There's a lot there, and we're coming down to about 8 minutes left. So is there any questions about the content shared inside of this collection? And I'll share it again just to make sure. Sorry if you can hear my kids running around upstairs. They don't go back to school till next week. Hopefully some of these ideas gave you some inspiration to engage your students in a different mode or a different idea or a different pathway. You know, whether it's collaboration, whether they're turning in their work and submitting it through Wakelet, whether it's through a digital portfolio, whatever the process is, the whole Wakelet team is here to support you. Of course, reach out to Chad first. Chad is your point of contact. Make sure Chad knows what you need. If it's not something he can handle, he can reach out to the rest of the team over in Manchester. We'll get it sorted out for you. We'll get it figured out. But just know, like, we're here to work with you, to help you. We want to see that engagement and empowerment creep up into every classroom through the use of Wakelet. If there's no questions, we'll let you out a little early. I know, I'm sure there is a survey. I don't know if it actually came into this one yet. So just make sure you fill out your stuff for the sessions.